Do you ever have an opportunity right in front of you and suddenly you're paralyzed from making a decision? Do you think about past mistakes and continuously beat yourself up thinking, you know what, if I make a choice, I'm just going to fall down the same rabbit hole? Hi, I'm Debra Kasowski, 3-time best-selling author, speaker, executive coach, and the podcast host of the Millionaire Woman Show. Today, I want to talk to you about stop overthinking and make that decision. What I find is people get caught up in making decisions. And I can tell you of a time when I was at the back of the room, I had just listened to a speaker, and I stood there thinking, you know what? I can do this. What they were sharing on stage, I know I could do. And the presenter looked at me. We had had a conversation. We had gotten to know each other a little bit. And he looked at me and he said, Deb, quit overthinking and just make that decision. And I stood there thinking, you know what? He called me out. He was right. And the reason I want to talk about overthinking today is that it can stop you from really taking that action and moving forward. See, when it comes to making a decision, we either worry about the future or we can have a vision of the future of where the possibilities are, right? Or we ruminate in the past about past decisions. And often if we have, a partner in our lives or someone else around us or in part of a team, we might defer that decision making to someone else, not trusting our own instinct, not speaking up when we need to, when we can see that there might be a flaw in something, to really overanalyzing, thinking, what is it that my voice really, does it matter in this moment? Does it matter that I share my observations? Does it matter what my gut instinct is telling me? And I'm here to tell you it absolutely does. See, when we're making decisions, the one thing I often ask myself, and this was after reading Dale Carnegie years ago, was, is someone going to jail or is someone going to die because of the decision? Most decisions in life are not life-threatening or not a crime. So put yourself at ease, take a deep breath, and really think about the extreme of what's possible of that decision. And knowing that the extreme and the opposite end, there's somewhere in the middle where you're going to meet. So when you're making decisions, don't be so hard on yourself thinking that it's going to go wrong. Because here's the thing, no decision is just cut and dry. There's often other decisions that come after it. So what I want you to consider is, let's look at the decision that needs to be made. Okay, when you get into a place of paralysis by overanalysis, what happens is you're exhausting your mental capacity. You're not allowing yourself to think freely. You get stuck and hung up on problem. So what I need you to do is shift your thinking to being solution focused, to be results oriented, so that you are focused on the outcomes that you would like to have. Right? So when you're making those decisions, you are thinking clearly, openly, knowing that there's possibility that exists, and even possibilities you might not even have thought of. So when you're faced with a decision, I know people tend to go to the pros and cons list, but I also want you to take a look and think about all the assumptions you're making. Write all those assumptions down. And when you write down those assumptions, I want you to challenge each one of them to find out if there's any truth in it. The other thing is, that way you can start looking at from different perspectives and different angles as to where this situation is coming from, the decision that you need to make. The more you look at the different perspectives, you can ask yourself, is this truly a problem? Or am I just looking at a challenge? Am I looking at just something that needs to be solved? When you shift to looking at solution and possibility, you are going to be more apt to find those possibilities in everything that you do. What I want to do, though, is bring you mindfully into the present. The present is so important. Instead of thinking about the future and where it's going to take you, or the past that's behind you that you have no control over, I need you to be present with what exists in front of you right now. You don't want to get caught up in past decision-making patterns, thinking, you know what, I delegated, or I, resigned to the fact of letting someone else make a decision for me, versus trusting myself enough to make that decision. Also, when you focus on the here and now, you can see the gaps, you can see what possibilities and what resources are needed to help you make that decision. Because once you make the decision and then move into making a plan, you can start gaining traction. You start seeing the possibilities. You start seeing the momentum unfold. And often there are many decisions to make after that. You see, everything that we do, there's micro decisions going on all the time. And when you need to make a decision, ask yourself, is this something that requires a deeper thought because it's going to impact more? If you give yourself some time to sit in silence, to journal out your thoughts, you can start seeing the thoughts that are in your head where you may have been over-analyzing, looking at the extreme circumstance, and not giving yourself enough credit to make the decision to move forward. Because when you make a decision, you don't want to have that element of self-doubt in there. You don't want to have that element of, thinking that you're not going to have a great return on your investment, or you didn't utilize your resources appropriately, or you're going to create damage in relationships. No, that's not what we want to do. When you want to make an effective decision, you're going to do your due diligence, you're going to do your homework and research about the information that you need to have in front of you to make that decision. But at some point, you're going to have to just trust yourself and go with it, and know that you can make many decisions along the way to correct the course as you go. What happens is everything gets held up until you make that decision, and go after it with trusting in yourself, trusting your gut, and knowing that you have found the answer that you're looking for. Trust yourself and believe that you already know the decision that needs to make. The more you ask yourself questions, the more perspectives you get, the closer you get to making a firm, final decision that you can speak with in conviction. Thank you for joining me. I'm Debra Kasowski. I would love for you to go over to my website at www.debrakasowski.com, where you can get your 3-part video mini course right now called Making Habits Stick, that helps you focus and consistency in your work and steps toward achieving your goals and dreams to make them a reality. I'd also love for you to subscribe to my channel here, hit the bell so you do not miss a single video that comes up and a podcast episode. Thank you for joining me. Have a fabulous day.